Today I got 9 things you can start doing right now to prepare for the expansion. I wasn't planning to make this video quite yet, but shout out to this little sausage for coming out with the video already. Being a content creator, you don't want to be behind on the trends. I'll leave a link down below to his prep guide. I try to avoid giving the same prep tips that he gave, so that way it's worth it to give both videos a watch. Again, link down below. So for the very first tip, this expansion is going to be for endgame. So for the new players that we've been getting in New World Aeternum, you guys are going to want to get to max level. The fastest way right now to get to max level in New World Aeternum is to just do the main story quest. You can tell the difference between a main story quest and a side story quest, because the main story quest is going to have a symbol like this, and the side story quests are going to have symbols like this. So if you want to get to max level quick, make sure you're not getting distracted and focus the main story. You're going to have to get the main story done anyways, because New World has this weird system to where you have to do the previous main story in order to start the new one. The next tip I can give is to max out your faction vendor's faction reputation. If you guys didn't know, in the previous expansion, they ended up adding in another tier to the faction shop. So you're going to want to max out your faction vendor, just in case they added another tier, you'll be ready to level it up day one. The third thing I could recommend, mainly to new players, is to get your heart rune. This is basically your ultimate ability, and you get these from expeditions. So make sure you get the heart rune that you want before the expansion comes out. I personally would recommend the stone form heart rune. Because we live in a stunlock meta, you can't go wrong with stone form. The fourth thing I would recommend you guys to do to prep for the expansion is to get a set of rune glass. Rune glass is basically the best gem that you can put into your gear if you don't know. You can craft rune glass and brimstone at the rune glass station right here. You're going to want to have a set of this for when you get your next gear set, because these are probably going to skyrocket on the market. Everyone's going to be wanting these, everyone's going to be putting these in their new gear. Make sure that you're not overpaying and you get a set now. The fifth thing that I could recommend you guys doing now before the expansion is to get a set of combat trophies. If you have a whole set of combat trophies, and you're going to need 3 of each, you're getting plus 15% damage while you're questing in the new area. These are furniture items, so you're going to need to own 3 different houses to put all 3 sets in, but this is something you can do now before the expansion. The next thing you can do to prepare for the expansion is to keep your perfect salvage items. I'm talking about your scraps and your fragments. If you're new to the game or you just don't know what these are, you can take these items to crafting stations and just get experience for these. You can buy and sell the fragments on the trade post, and these are probably going to skyrocket when the expansion comes out. I'm not saying go out and buy a bunch and hoard them, but what I am saying is you should hang on to the ones that you have right now, or stock up on them for when the expansion drops. This will save you a ton of gold when you're going to level up these skills. The 7th tip I can give you guys to prepare for the new expansion is to stock up on some buff food. There's going to be a bunch of players coming back to the game, so all these items are probably going to skyrocket in price. Every year when the major update comes out, New World gets a giant player spike. And in the past, this has only been on Steam. Now we have console players as well. So if prices skyrocketed before, they're definitely going to skyrocket this time. Some of the buff food that I would recommend to stock up on right now is some Mac O'Malley's. You can get these super cheap right now. They're only going for about 2 gold a pop. And if you have cooking high enough, you can even just buy the recipe and make these yourself. But what these do in particular is give you extra territory standing, which is going to be awesome for when you're doing the new quest line in the new territory. And it gives you extra faction reputation. And going off my previous tip about maxing out your faction vendor, if they end up coming out with another tier in your faction vendor, this is just going to be a double bonus for you. Another buff food I would recommend you stocking up on now, before the player spike, is Desert Sunrise. Any PvP player knows this is a must-have when doing any PvP activity. It's not a must-have in PvE, but it's still nice to have some of these so you can pop while you're doing the new quest line. Another buff food that stacks with the other two, that's arguably the most important buff food that I would recommend stocking up on, is the attribute bonus food of your choice. This could be Dex, this could be focus buff food, this could be strength buff food, but the best buff food in the game that you can use with every class is constitution buff food, because every single class is going to be using constitution. You can literally use this buff food whether you're playing a tank, a healer, a dex player, whatever playstyle you're using or wanting to switch to, you can just use the same buff food. If the buff food is a little too expensive, you can always go with the event buff food. This buff food does not give you as much attribute points as the normal buff food, But this buff food will scale with your character's level from level 10 all the way up to max. It's usually a lot cheaper than the normal buff food, and you're only losing like 8 attribute points with it, which is not a big deal. This is actually so worth it to use. One of the last things I can recommend to you guys stocking up on before the new expansion, and I know you guys have been waiting for me to say it, is gold. This is a department that I'm lacking on right now, and for the next month and a half, I'm going to be stocking up as much gold as I can. This way, no matter what, if there's an item available that I can buy that I need, I'm going to be able just to buy it right away. Everybody's going to want to be stocking up as much gold as possible until the expansion comes out. And the last thing I want to talk about is going to be gear. In a certain little sausages video, they said maybe scrap some old gear that you're not planning to use while you're leveling in the new expansion. So if you're not planning to use a sword shield, you can kind of just get rid of this, is what was implied. I would say hold off on your scrapping. Do not get rid of all the gear that you have saved up because of how the gear scaling works in New World Aeternum. In the PvP game mode, Outpost Rush, in 3v3s, and in Capture the Flag, gear scales up to 25 gear score under max gear score. So right now, at the time of recording, before the expansion, the max gear score is 725. So in these PvP game modes, all gear will scale up to 700. This is an amazing way to test out new builds if you want to switch at any point. When this new expansion drops, we're going to be getting these new items called sets. If you ever played Diablo 2 or World of Warcraft, there was these set items that you used to be able to get, and if you equipped enough of them, they'll give you a set bonus. So I can only imagine there's going to be plenty of builds that people are going to be trying out, plenty of items that are going to be swapped out, and there's going to be items with perks that you are specifically going to be looking for. This is where your old gear is going to come in. That way you can search for the perks that you're specifically looking for, and then you'll be able to test out the builds that you want. Alright guys, this is the 9 things that I'm going to start preparing for the expansion. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. Let me know down in the comments if there's anything else that you guys are going to be preparing for this expansion. YouTube is recommending this video right now. They think you'll like it. Go give it a watch. I upload short content every 2 days on my channel, so there's plenty of content to go watch. Subscribe so you don't miss anything, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.